The New York Knicks dropped game 3, 111-106. A valiant effort. Jalen Brunson on one leg. Donte DiVincenzo went off. And a crazy shot by Andrew Nembhard and some iffy officiating ended it late. We get into it now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
A really tough loss for the New York Knicks. You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Recently, sometimes 7 days a week, sometimes 8 days a week. We don't really know. We're just every time I'm not asleep, Alex, it feels like I'm talking about the Knicks. And if you want to be a part of those conversations and tune into them, you can subscribe on YouTube and hit that notifications bell to ensure you never miss an episode on the video side of things. And then when you're on the go, be sure to hit that auto download function so you can have us talking to you while you're on the move. I'm Gavin Schall. I've been covering the NBA for about 10 years, half the time as a credentialed media member. He is Alex Wolfe, editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. As the Knicks fall in game 3, chance to all but put the series away, 111-106. Jalen Brunson re-aggravated his foot injury about 5 minutes into this one. It was 14-4 Pacers at that point. Felt like the Knicks were playing from behind pretty much the entire night until an exceptional third quarter run flipped the game. They were down 9, got up by 8, got it to, what was it? It was like 98-89 in the fourth quarter, 9-point lead, and just seemed to run out of gas from there. And Indiana fueled by some great finishing from Tyrese Halliburton, some questionable calls down the stretch that we'll get into, and some missed free throws by the Knicks. I'll talk about the specifics. Alex, I'll throw it to you first. It gets to 106-106 after Jalen Brunson hits just another gutsy shot that no one's going to remember, but for a lot of guys, it would have been the shot of their career. For Jalen Brunson on 1 foot, just another day at the office, step back 3 to tie it at 106 all. Knicks play the best defense you could possibly play. Ball ends up in the hands of Andrew Nembhard. Shot clock dwindling. He hits a step back, maybe 32, 33-footer to make it 109-106. Jalen Brunson tries to draw the foul. He gets hit on the arm. Doesn't get called. It was before the shot, so we probably wouldn't have gotten free throws anyways. And that is good night and goodbye. The Knicks got everything they needed to win this game. Ultimately, couldn't do it, Alex. And they head into game 4 Sunday afternoon, up 2-1 in this series.
Yeah, and that's part of why I'm like strangely zen about this game, and like the officiating. Like, yeah, there were some annoying calls missed, but like I think we've grown enough during these playoffs and grown to understand what this playoff run is going to be at this point, to understand that it's just like the calls are going to be weird sometimes, and sometimes it's going to be home cooking. And I mean, it's actually sort of in some ways reminiscent of what happened in game 3 versus Philly, except for minus the part where a player was allowed to intentionally try to injure people. I mean, it was just like there was a lot of noise coming out of the Pacers side about officiating, and then we saw a sort of more physical game be allowed to occur here, except for the other side didn't have a Joel Embiid to, like sop up free throw attempts, although they still managed to outshoot the Knicks. Or no, sorry, didn't quite outshoot the Knicks. It was only a discrepancy of 4, though, at the free throw line. So like a little tighter in this one compared to the other games in the series so far. It is what it is in that regard. In terms of like the late game execution, I wish it could have been a little better. I think Brunson gave it pretty much everything he could in this game. I think that I think the biggest thing that we're going to maybe see come out of the officiating in this game is that next game he might get a little better of a whistle, because if you go back and like watch all of his attempts, like it's kind of wild to me that he only got 7 free throw attempts in this game. Like the rest of the game, whatever, like if you want to start calling it a little tighter, fine. But I thought it went a little beyond that with him. And, we sort of saw the seeds planted in the last game, but he did get some of those calls where like, guys are getting right up in his space. And it's like, at a certain point, you think maybe that's, enough to get a foul call as a guy who's been the top scoring player in the NBA this whole postseason. But, other than that, like there was execution issues. I didn't really agree with the way that he approached the last possession. I can understand trying to draw a foul there, but I also would have probably preferred it if he just tried to go straight up with it and just tried to just shoot the shot, period, and try to get it off as clean as he could, because he had just made a clutch one straight up and down a minute ago. So rather than trying to lean in and get to the free throw line where he had less luck right there at the end, I would have preferred he just try to take a shot straight up there. But yeah, the execution left a little bit to be desired. All in all, though, I mean, it was a really good effort. I mean, it was crazy to me that the Knicks just there's no other shoe dropping ever. I literally said this the other day when we were podcasting, but it's just like you keep thinking, all right, like something's gonna, this game's gonna be the letdown, and then it wasn't. It was like they were right there right until the last couple possessions, and then it just kind of slipped away off that Nembhard make. But if he misses that and they're able to get the offensive rebound, which was don't even get me started on that. They weren't able to snatch an offensive rebound for like the final minute and a half, or a defensive rebound, I should say, for the final minute and a half, while the Pacers just had the rebounds just fortuitously like land in their hands practically, which isn't a thing that, anyone had any control over. But I was just like, man, that's some tough basketball God's luck. But it was tough. It was a tough ending. But, if ultimately it takes a Andrew Nembhard 30-something footer to win a game for the Pacers, and then, I think I'm all right with that. I can live with that as a Knicks fan.
Yeah, I think where I was distraught after, and you're handling this a lot better than I am. I may or may not have sent the lyrics to Sean Kingston's "Beautiful Girls" to a group chat. My friend, the aforementioned Jeremy Kaplan, responded, "The Nembhard shot broke me in a way I may never recover from." But he's prone to saying stuff like that. I think where I come out of this bummed is just how much do the Knicks have in the tank after this game? And is this a case where Jalen Brunson, like, this is the worst it's going to be? This is the nadir, because I was, even though sure Naismith was super physical with, he was allowed to do basically everything he wanted with Jalen Brunson all game. He was super physical. It was a good call by Rick Carlisle to switch the matchup, because he was torching Nembhard. And if Jalen's speed and movement was going to be impeded, why let him spend the whole game just shooting over Andrew Nembhard? Because he doesn't need to move fast to beat Andrew Nembhard. He does need to move fast to beat Aaron Naismith, because Naismith is just freaking bigger than him and longer than him. And if you combine that with the fact that he was allowed to physically get away with whatever he wanted, it led to a tough night for Jalen Brunson. We're to your point. Like, I just looked at the box score. I was surprised. Still at 26-6 in 38 tough minutes. Not his best day at the office. 10 of 26 from the field. Did have 5 turnovers. Obviously, the 38 minutes is almost the number that stands out to you more than anything else. Like, had to keep coming in and out of the game, which would be normal, but not normal in these playoffs for him. And I don't know if this was the worst he's going to be physically. Like, he fell on that foot a lot, and he just couldn't put a lot of pressure on it. Certainly looked better in the second half than it did in the first half, which is encouraging. But is this going to be something where, like, it gets better, then it gets worse? It gets better, then it gets worse. And there's just no way of knowing that. But yeah, the ending of this one, super frustrating. Obviously, you get the lead to 98-89. From that point forward, the Knicks scored 1 point over 5.5 minutes. The offense just died, because in the fourth quarters of these games, they are hyper reliant on Jalen Brunson to create shots late in the shot clock. And he just was not up for consistently doing that today, missing a bunch of shots he normally makes. Like that floater where he ISO'd on Turner and got by him and just missed it. Like, that was the one that just always goes in for him, and he just couldn't do it. And you're also really reliant on OG Anunoby typically in these situations. And you didn't have OG Anunoby. You lose a bucket on the missed goaltending on Josh Hart. You lose 2 points on Brunson and Hart, both missing a free throw. You have a Deuce McBride 3 that goes in and out. You give up offensive rebounds. Deuce McBride had or Dante, had a really dumb goaltend on a shot from Siakam that was already missing. There was just a lot of stuff. And despite DiVincenzo giving you a cushion, we haven't even said it yet, 35 points, probably the best game of his career. And Burks coming out and playing about as well as he could possibly play on both ends. That gave you a real chance. And they just needed to get one more thing in the fourth quarter, and they couldn't get that one more thing to put them over the edge.
Yeah, and I mean, we could talk more about DiVincenzo and what he was able to do in just a second, because I mean, I thought that he he now, and especially after this game, is looking like himself when he had to step into like the 1A role. I mean, he was just automatic in this game. Just the shot maker in this one, and one where, you know, Josh Hart had one of his more muted offensive games that he's had, particularly in recent memory. You know, you kind of needed that out of him. We could talk about Burks. We could talk about Deuce McBride. I think had a much better showing in this game than he has all series, which was much needed, and hopefully something that the Knicks can build on going into the next game, because they might well need more than 29 minutes of him going into another game. But there's still lots of meat on the bone to talk about, and we're going to get into it in just a second. But first, we had to remind you all about our good friends over at Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. And you can get in on playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during this basketball postseason. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan, from basketball and hockey to League of Legends and everything in between, as if the basketball and hockey aren't enough right now. So you can pick LeBron, you can pick Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, you can pick Connor McDavid. Is that a hockey player? I think. I don't know, whatever. And Jude Bellingham, whoever that is, all in the same entry. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. And, you know, it's been pretty interesting to play Prize Picks on, you know, if you're focusing on Knicks games lately. I feel like you kind of just have to assume overs for most of these guys, because they're you know, just going off on these crazy minute loads and everything. I don't know, maybe if you bet the over on Josh Hart's points tonight or something, maybe it's not quite the same if you made that pick in the app. But, you know, I guess we'll see. Either way, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, you want to get the Prize Picks app and use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. And Prize Picks, you pick more, you pick less. It's that easy.
We also wanted to tell you about our good friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's keep it going. We gotta let's go. All right, one more negative, and then we'll get into the positive. The Pacers get 8 points in the fourth quarter off of offensive rebounds. 13 for the game for Indiana. Did a really good job at one. I think the Knicks did not get a single offensive rebound the entire second quarter. They managed to finish the game with 10. Credit to Hartenstein. He had 4. Credit to Achua. He had 4. Give up 6 to Miles Turner. 3 to Pascal Siakam. And I think, I don't think, I'm pretty sure I know, we are continuing to see the repercussions of all these minutes on these guys. And I look at them as free throws, and I look at it as kind of the same thing. Like it is mental and physical fatigue finally, inevitably setting in for this team. You said it, Alex, like, when is the other shoe going to drop? And it still hasn't, but we're seeing it pitter patter now, where I came into this series and I said, you know what, like, Bojan Bogdanovic, not for them winning this series, but for them winning the Eastern Conference. That was the final straw. That was just one loss too many. Since then, of course, Mitchell Robinson gone, OG Anunoby gone. There is just a point of no return. And because this team is unique and special and in some ways just simply blessed by the basketball gods, I would say borderline, and this is crazy because it's not that like they've won a championship. They haven't even gotten out of the second round yet. Like borderline uniquely competitive and resilient compared to any basketball team I've ever seen. Like this hasn't killed them, but the cracks are starting to form just a bit. And Indiana was able to take advantage of it. That being said, if you want to flip to the positive, the reason those cracks didn't lead to the wall crumbling was because Donte DiVincenzo was just extraordinary in this game and has been over the last 4 games now. 28 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 50% from the field, 100% on his free throws, somehow shooting 56% from 3, taking 10 threes a game. He has been a lifeboat for the Knicks these last 4 games.
Yeah, I will just say before I get into Dante, as far as like the snake bittenness of the Knicks, if things are starting to catch up to them, I, I'm gonna keep my eye on Halliburton next game
Yeah,
as well. I mean, if we want to talk about, I don't like to talk about injuries as like, oh, they're equalizers, but the reality is like, he sustained a twisted ankle in this game and seemed hobbled by it. Adrenaline kicks in when you first turn an ankle like that and you play
look,
on
we
it.
saw with Jalen, right, last game, like the way he played.
Right. We saw with Brunson. We saw it with, we even saw it with Mitchell Robinson, a number of times this year with that tricky ankle where, he was able to even play a game or two after. And then it's like, oh man, like this is pretty ugly. Like you're going to sit for a while. And, or, obviously he had to get surgery at one point. But I mean, for the guy in Halliburton who allegedly is still feeling the effects of a hamstring sprain and, or strain, whatever, in January, and in the month of May right now, maybe that's something to keep an eye on going into this next game on a short turnaround, maybe even more so than Brunson, who seemed, I think he had a little bit of not getting lift on some of his shots today, which I think was why some of them seemed like they were coming up a little short. But I would say all in all, I mean, he didn't look super phased, like in the end by that injury, and hopefully we'll have a quicker turnaround than a potential ankle issue. But either way, yeah, Donte DiVincenzo was crazy in this game. I mean, so the final stat line, 35 points, 12 of 26 shooting, 7-11 from 3, 4-4 from the free throw line, gets 3 boards, 2 assists, a steal, a block. Obviously mentioned, I mean, he was not without a bonehead play here or there. There was the goaltend, which again, yeah, it was just nonsensical. I mean, when I was watching that on TV, I was like, there's no way I just saw what I just saw, right? Like when I was like, no, it must have been closer to the backboard than it looked on TV or something. Like that can't have been that blatant. And then I looked and I was just like, oh my God, dude, what were you doing? Like that was so clearly on its way down. Like, why did you touch that? Why did you like pull your arm down at that point? Like, or just skirt under it, like anything. But that doesn't take away from the fact that like without him, they're not anywhere close to winning this game. I mean, the 7-11 from 3 is back to, take your pick. Either the version of Dante where, I mean, he was able to put the ball on the floor more still. He still just looks way more comfortable getting to his spots in this series than he did last series. Like, so maybe you want to say that he's more like the 1A version of Dante that had to come out, when there was all the injuries around midseason. Or maybe you want to say he's the version that just rains threes that we saw once Brunson came back and once the Knicks got like relatively healthy again towards the end of the year when he set the Knicks single game 3-point record and all that stuff. Like, he looks great right now. The shot is so pure. He seems like he's just unlimitedly confident in it. And as long as that keeps up, maybe the Knicks will be all right. Like if they take this next game, obviously they're in position to then just win 1 out of 3 against the Pacers for the rest of it. And I mean, even as it stands right now, they only have to win, 2 out of the next 4 games. And like, I think they could pull that off. Just because of how good they played in this one and the fact that it did take that Nemhard 3 and everything else to beat them. And if Dante's playing this good and Brunson finds some more semblance of himself next game, like I think they could potentially steal this one in Indy because DiVincenzo is just on a different level right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, he looked like Steph Curry in that third quarter, 17-point quarter, the highest scoring quarter of his entire career. And like he was pretty cold early in this game where the Knicks were, I mean, at one point down 20-8 and 14-4. And then he just starts like ends up going 3 for 4 in the quarter. Like at one point, like just off a handoff, like turning into like a contested 26-footer, rising over the defense. And it was crazy to me. Like the Pacers, You would assume next game is going to be different. It felt like they never upped their intensity. They never looked at it as like a 5-alarm fire when he had the basketball, and he burned them for it over and over again. It was really smart. Tibbs wasn't doing this early in the Sixers series and has learned his lesson since, consistently positioning Dante one pass away from Jalen. I would like to see the Knicks spam this a little more, where they use Dante as a screener for Jalen. That got Dante his very first three of the game. And then Dante, I mean, at the most important stretch of this game for the Knicks, outside of the very end, when it was 77-66, and you can look at, I think back to game 6 against Philly when it was 71-61. In game 1, Indiana had like a 10-point lead in the third quarter. And there are just all these moments where the Knicks can let go of the rope, and they just seem to grip harder and start pulling it towards their side. And that was the play where Dante was called for the offensive foul. Great challenge by Tibbs, turns into an and one. And then has a backdoor cut, then hits a contested three. It was 8 in a row for him. And then in the fourth quarter, like just an insane help side block on Siakam that turned into another three. That one tied a Knicks playoff record for made threes in a game at 7. Just an all-time performance from our guy. Like, again, like I think Rick Carlisle is gonna, like, Clockwork Orange style drill it into his team that they can't let that happen again. They have to press up on him, but he is in a zone right now. And I would be surprised if he cooled off substantially, even if the volume goes down a little bit. And the Knicks, they need every inch of it right now. And like he has all season, he delivers it to them. One of the best free agency signings in recent NBA history. And that feels like a theme across the Knicks. Who would have thought? Donte DiVincenzo, 28 points per game over 4 playoff games. We will come back and we will talk Alec Burks, because that was by Burksian standards, like somewhere between an A and an A- performance from him. Just exceptional. You noted it. I think it was big how Deuce McBride jumped back. Josh Hart, maybe by the standard he set recently, not a perfect game. I thought it was a pretty amazing game from him, all things considered, and what the Knicks have to do going forward in this series. So we'll get into all that next on Locked On Knicks.
But first, we're going to let you know about our friends over at Monopoly Go. So game off. All right, we got to pause here and talk more about Monopoly Go. And I know what you're going to say, tactical foul. You already talked about Monopoly Go. Yeah, we have talked about it a little bit this week, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers that you could trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. You can get cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. You can get hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Maybe we'll go hit up Tony East's vault from Locked On Pacers after this and go steal everything he has because his team beat the Knicks. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. And there's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on the Google Play or App Store. Game on. All right, Gavin, we're back in to talk about the guy that, if I may use a wrestling term, the guy that got the biggest pop out of me in this game, Alec Burks, man. I was blown away by how good he played. I was like, where have you been? Excuse me, sir. Like, where has this been? This maybe could have been useful last round or any other time this whole season when the Knicks really needed you, pal. Like, he figured it out. You know, the walkthrough must have been good. And, you know, like we were talking about that on the show this morning that we did where we were, you know, like, hey, how do you overcome OG? And it's like, well, probably gonna have to unglue Burks from the bench. Like you gotta, and he's got to find something of himself from, you know, the 20 to 21 and then the 21 to 22 seasons with this team. Cause like outside, you know, again, outside of the Point Burks experiment, like early in that 21 to 22 year, like we were talking about, this guy might be the guy that replaces Reggie Bullock, is like one of the best wing defenders on this team. And he's, you know, a good shot creator. And like, they need that, you know, and he was such a key part of that bench unit that year. You know, as you had like Emmanuel Quickly as a, you know, as a second year player that year. And you had Derrick Rose still on the team and all that stuff. Like he was a big part of that. Like when that bench was setting standards. You know, is one of the best benches in the league before he got moved to the starting lineup, and things all fell apart when he was the point guard. But I mean, in this game, just the shot making early was huge. His discipline was huge as well. I didn't think he was forcing anything. Like, that's been the biggest issue since he came back to the Knicks, is every time the ball touches his hands, you're just like, well, all right, where are you going to shoot it from? Because you're definitely shooting it. So, like, at least take a good shot. And in this game, he showed a lot more like willingness to come over and screen for Brunson, for example, and almost get into some stuff like what DiVincenzo gets into. Like, I almost wonder if they were just like, hey, watch what Dante does, and kind of just do that. Like, go over there, set a screen from it for him, and then the second that Brunson takes it, immediately pop over to that wing for the three and get open there and, you know, be ready for it. And he also, I think his presence helped the non-Brunson minutes be a lot more palatable too, because he does have that creation ability that pretty much nobody else that the Knicks have on the roster at the moment has. Like, at his best, he can still create shots. So color me super surprised and happy, and honestly feeling pretty good about like a potential. So we heard today, I guess we'll debut this news now, that OG Anunoby's probably going to be out the next game, but assuming that you can get OG back by game 5, if you can get OG back and then still have a few minutes of Alec Burks playing like he did today, suddenly your team that's been running like a skeleton crew can maybe actually play like 8 players again. And that's not half bad. Like, if you can get 10 to 15 minutes out of Alec Burks to just give some other people breathers every once in a while. So I hope what we saw today is not an anomaly, because I was truly impressed by him. I hope that this is kind of the new normal for Burks, this more heady version of himself.
Yeah, I want to echo everything you said, but what we heard from Woj, so he's definitely out game 4. He's likely to miss game 5 as well.
I thought that it was I thought my interpretation
this is Evan Sidery, his interpretation of it. And he's like, so my point is, like, could be wrong. I didn't hear. I assume this is what Woj said pregame. I missed it. I didn't hear it. So I'm not 100% sure, but he said, yeah, go ahead.
I listened. To me, it sounded more like, and I mean, maybe I was just seeing it through, rose-colored
sitting there like drooling with like a Knicks jersey on. You're like, he'll be back at halftime.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe I wasn't quite there listening to it, but like, I thought that it was basically like Woj being like, I'm like 99% certain he's out for game 4, and then it read to me more like questionable for game 5, like maybe a 50-50 shot, give it a go in warmups, but maybe I'm being optimistic.
Yeah, I don't know. So this is purely my gut instinct. My gut instinct is he's not going to play 4-5. He would play 6 if it was a closeout game, if Indiana, basketball gods forbid, won 3 in a row, or 2 in a row, I guess, from here. And he would play game 7 if needed. Like that's my gut instinct, gun to my head. I don't think they're going to play him until it's a closeout game. And I think when they do play him, unless it's game 1 next round against the Celtics or maybe the Cavs, I don't think he's going to be 100%. But to your point on Burks, I think you nailed it. The stability. Oh, I don't even want to say the stability was the biggest thing, because you need both from him, right? You need the stability and you need the shots to go in, and they got both. And that's where this loss sucked for me, because like when we were talking this morning, I said, like, at a certain point, like, you're buying a scratch off with Alec Burks, and you need it to be the right. I've never bought a scratch off before. I don't really know how it works, but you need it to be the right numbers, so you get the money. And it was the right numbers or the right pineapples. I've never bought one. That the Knicks got the money tonight, and it was just an impressive, composed, intelligent effort. Like, hit a fadeaway, got an and one on a dribble handoff. To your point, like, they ran the same play that they ran with DiVincenzo, where you got a pick and pop 3 off of Brunson. My favorite play of the day, though, was there was a moment of, like, he made the first few shots and then he got that glint in his eye and said, all right, Burks, back, baby. And Josh Hart calls for the ball, waves him off. Miles Turner, one of the biggest freaking guys in the NBA, is right in his grill, and he drains it. It was an 11-0 Knicks run at that point. Didn't score in the second half, but I thought he played some great defense when he came into the second half. Like, got a really important tie-up on Nembhard that probably should have been called a foul. Alex, I just want to get this in before I forget, because this was when I was going over at the beginning of the show, like my list of complaints. The one I got the angriest at was not the goaltend. That was not obvious to me in real time that it was a goaltend. That was miscalled on Josh Hart's transition layup. that would have made it 104-102. Instead, it was the shot that actually made it 104-102 on the next possession. Pascal Siakam gets away with literally just holding Isaiah Hartenstein, so he can't contest Andrew Nembhard's layup. I don't know which official it was. The official is literally 2 feet away from the play, staring at it, and he refuses to make that call. That infuriates me, even during the regular season when it happens, because you're just like, there is nothing you can do there. As a defender, it is blatant. I know you don't want to be calling off-ball fouls with 2 minutes left in the game and wiping points off the board. I get that, but that has to be called. And it wasn't. And that, as much as anything else, that would have wiped 2 points off the board, would have completely changed how the last 2 minutes went, could have cost the Knicks here. So that freaking sucked. But before we wrap up, Hartenstein, great effort, not his best scoring game. Josh Hart, similar, 18 rebounds in 43 minutes, insane. And maybe the biggest development, like Deuce had a really nice game. Not perfect, not as good as he was against Philly, but really, really good and important and much better defense on McConnell. Like, which of those caught your eye the most?
Yeah, well, I'll just say first, I mean, maybe we should just we got to make sure, to send Tibbs that play, the one with Hartenstein, just to make sure he can add it to his 69 things that he sends to the league or whatever. After this game, the 69 missed calls that really cost the Knicks. They should have shot 182 free throws in this game, but unfortunately they did not. I don't know when the league is going to give big markets a chance, but at some point they're going to have to. They're going to have to give us a chance.
50 years without a title, so it hasn't been for a while.
I know that's the most hilarious implication of that Rick Carlisle presser. And the last one is like, they've been rigging it for the Knicks for years. It's like, bro, where have you been living?
Also, we're living in a world with the Western Conference Finals. I know Denver's up right now. Is likely to be Timberwolves Thunder right now.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. Big market bias, baby. Big market bias.
Yeah. That big Oklahoma City market killing us.
Twin cities. They have 2 whole cities. Okay. They have 2 whole cities.
It's the biggest market. It's 2 cities in one.
It's the biggest market. It's the Twin Cities.
And France. So
anyway, all right. Oh man, I almost want to just end on that note. That's a fun note to end on. But Deuce McBride was great. That's all I'll say. I mean, I liked, the shot started going down again, 2 of 5 from 3. I think that was one of the biggest things with him the last few games, is like you could see how much it buoys him when his shot is falling. Like he gets pumped up, like all of a sudden he hits one of those shots and then a big defensive play will follow. And I'm not saying that he's like the type to only play good defense when he makes big shots or whatever. Like I think he plays above average defense every minute that he's on the floor. I mean, he didn't make an enormous offensive impact in this game, like 10 points, but a plus 11, which was the best on the team. And I believe that. Like, I actually think that his minutes were really good. Like, weirdly, he made him in combination with Burks, sort of goes along with what I was saying about how Quickly and Burks used to be a really good combo, but like him and Burks out there and with DiVincenzo and at times Hart, like they made it work without Brunson on the floor. Like this was the first game, probably this whole playoffs, where when Brunson wasn't on the floor, I was like, oh, this is like sort of working. Like I kind of dig it, because every other time when Brunson goes off the floor, it's been like, oh my God, like how many seconds has it been? Like, can we please get him back out there? Like, come on, man, you've had 27 seconds to catch your breath. Like, get back on the floor. It just didn't feel that way. And it was, I think in large part due to the fact that Deuce kind of found it again with, the ball handling, at least to get it across across to the other side of the floor again. Being able to defer the Burks to be able to do some of the creation and stuff was big. And then, just again, hitting the shots again, getting back in a groove from the 3-point line. Hopefully with DiVincenzo setting the Knicks postseason 3-point record in this one, we get a repeat of what happened the last time during the regular season when DiVincenzo hit the record, and then Deuce will come storming in trying to take the record the very next game and get really close to it in this next game. And maybe that'll be enough to put the Knicks over the top in game 4.
That'd be great. It felt, I didn't love I thought his decision-making got exposed, having to play point guard for large minutes in game 2, that whole second quarter. Didn't have to do that today. It helped a lot. Like, to your point, the defense was a lot better. Like, had that great strip on Obi Toppin, hit the 3 that put them up 98-89.
I forgot one play too. Played really on a switch, played some awesome defense on Miles Turner at one point. Like that like caught my eye and I was like, damn, like
Yeah.
that was really good. Like it was just kind of a busted play where like Hartenstein got stuck up top. It might have been was it the one where DiVincenzo like fell over when he was playing defense and like trying to like kind of sell a screen or
Yeah.
whatever. And it just kind of busted the whole defense up. And then all of a sudden Turner was wide open in the middle and Deuce just like cheated over to him and got like so vertical to challenge his shot. And he missed it. That was fantastic. I thought that was a great possession from Deuce too.
Yeah, the Knicks guards blocking Miles Turner is a great theme in this. Dante got him, Brunson got him game one. That's been cool. Josh Hart, I just want to shout him out. Like finally sat after playing the equivalent of 3 straight games. Like, and these are the moments that get forgotten, especially in a loss. But like when the Knicks are down 20-8, like for him to just like back-to-back possessions, like drive, slip to Hartenstein for a layup, rebound, coast to coast for a layup, like he is like not a scorer, but like when the Knicks desperately need it, he just finds a way to score. Like hit a step back 3, the first possession of the game. One of my favorite plays of the entire game was when Pascal tried to ISO him in the fourth quarter, and Josh Hart just picked his pocket and was like, that's not gonna fly right now. Like you better go in the post, big boy. And he just got it right back. Hartenstein, some great passing, great effort on the glass. Precious didn't play as I thought it was going to end up being like a 40-minute night for him. And credit to Tom Thibodeau for being flexible. Like, not that Precious did some good stuff in this game, had 3 blocks. I mentioned the 4 offensive rebounds, but just like it allowed the Pacers to just double on Brunson with impunity when he was out there. And it just wasn't tenable on a night where Brunson didn't have everything he normally would. So Tibbs went away from it. And that was a great call. This feels a lot like Game 5 to me, where the Knicks, like it wasn't officially a chance to end the series. It was unofficially a chance to end the series. The other team makes a crazy shot at the end. The other team gets the benefit of some iffy calls. And it just feels like, all right, like this is such a gut punch. Like how are the Knicks respond? That time it was a gut punch because it was like a 1 in a million run by Maxey. This time, just because they just had no business winning this game and they almost won it anyways. And I'm walking away feeling like, all right, like a team shouldn't be able to come back from this. Like Indiana probably should win game 4. The Knicks should almost like just regroup for game 5. But with this team, like you just learn over and over again, like, all right, you just like, to quote Nick Nurse for the millionth time, I'll probably do it every podcast. Nothing matters. They always have a chance. They'll always be in it down the stretch. And we'll see if they can pull it off next time.
Yep. And we don't have to wait too long because it's going to be a Sunday afternoon game. So hopefully as Josh Hart said during the last series, or maybe it was earlier in this series, I don't know, it's all becoming a blur with Josh Hart quotes, but just get that percussive therapy, get some treatment, and get ready to go again. They're gonna have to do it all over again on Sunday. Hopefully different outcome for the Knicks, but we'll be here for you guys to cover that and everything else as it comes up throughout these playoffs. So till next time, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.